Well, the questionnaire is the one that Isabella just referred to. Well, this is not accidental. I moved to Birmingham with a group of Aston University, and this questionnaire, which is called NAVC, was not available in Italian, and since I had to spend some time there, I said, why don't we validate NAVC in Italian? It was a complex job, as Isabella said. We thought of doing something that would be of some use to Italians as well. So we have involved IBZ and also the Vinci Institute, as well as other entities and organizations, in spite of the fact that they are actually competitors of each other. What are the questionnaires? Well, Isabella mentioned it. They are basically tools we are used to measuring all the time in our lives. But when we use psychometric tools, we think that talking about measuring is not even appropriate for a psychological variable. There are psychometric tools which measure some aspects. We have very many of them for the quality of vision, the function of vision, and the quality of life related to vision. Think of low vision, for example, with lots of questionnaires. They are subjective measurements, usually based on Likert scales. They are very used socially. For example, one of the examples is shown here. Like all measurement tools, they have to consider a few aspects. Like, for example, would you measure how tall you are using a thermometer? A tool must have certain features to be suitable for measuring certain things. Validity. A tool, an instrument, must measure what it is intended to measure. An instrument, you should ask yourself, is it made for just one dimension, or is it intended for more dimensions? Then internal consistency. Are the different items measuring the same construct, as Isabella explained? A good thermometer can discriminate whether you have a temperature or not. So another question you should ask yourselves is whether the discrimination power is good for that tool. And then test, retest reliability. Again, in the example of fever, if my son has fever, then I retest to see whether it's true or not. NAVC is a tool which was developed considering that times change. There are many compensation strategies for presbyopia, for example, and if there is a new one coming up, we would like to know whether it works or not. Subjective functional measurements are equally important as objective functional measurements. We need to understand whether the subject is efficient. This is the original NAVC. This is a publication by the English group in 2012. We started working at it with the aim of translating it. If you take a score of several items on a Likert scale, for example, to what extent do you agree with this statement, or have you got any near vision problems when reading the newspaper, then you obtain a raw score, which has to be transformed because initially the raw score is not linear. So you have the rush transformation to obtain a scale with intervals which are consistent. So transformation from raw to rush is one of the most important elements. The English group gave indications on how to convert the raw score into a rush score. Our goal was to produce the Italian version of NAVC. If one wants to investigate a new type of contact lenses in Italian, then one cannot use the questionnaire in English. It has to be in Italian and it has to be validated. So we've taken the English NAVC, and the first step was to do what Isabella was explaining before. Well, several steps are involved in this. You have bilingual people, researchers in this case, who know English and Italian. They do forward translation to the target language, Italian in this case. So translation from English into Italian. Then they agree on the final translation. They believe that the translation expresses the same concepts as the English questionnaire. So at that point, a bilingual individual, different from the previous two, does the back translation. At that point, an Aston English mother tongue panel received the document in English and compared it with the original version, making some amendments and coming up with a version which is agreed upon. Then there is a debriefing, and this is the final version in Italian. You can ask the authors and you can get it. It's not published yet, but it was submitted. At this point, once you have the questionnaire, you start playing, so to say. A series of subjects were taken in a multi-center study, Rome, IBZ, Vinci, and they started investigating several groups. For example, emerging presbyopes. Well, I used to be an emerging presbyope. Now I am a presbyope. But people in an age group, in the emerging group of emerging presbyopes, not using correction, then people using overreaders, progressive spectacles, multifocal contact lenses, monovision CLs, and finally, people who were implanted with monofocal IOLs, uncorrected. Well, they are supposedly those with a terrible score, not because the IOL doesn't work, but clearly monofocal IOLs do not work for near vision. Well, these people are pseudophakic. They are the control group, so to say. They can't see at a near distance. They did test and retest at an interval of 15 days, and then they made the NAVC again. This is the sample. These are the ages. Of course, there is significant difference between the first and the last groups. Emerging presbyopes, by definition, are younger individuals. IOLs implanted later, at a later age. So there are implications in all this. Addition in refraction. This is the theoretical one. Monofocal IOLs require much greater addition. Emerging presbyopes have less of an addition which is required. There's no significant difference among the four central groups. Let's consider what Isabella said. We converted the scores into rash scores, and we started carrying out our analysis. Actually, it was not a major effort. The biggest effort was to collect data. Then we did the Cronbach. We splitted all the items to see whether there was an internal correlation. The closer alpha is to 1, the higher the correlation is. Let's compare Cronbach's alpha in the Italian and English version. No difference, 0.93 and 0.95, so high internal consistency. First question, well, the English developed this test to measure the near vision ability, but does it provide us with some additional information as well? Apart from Cronbach alpha, it also allows you to do factorial validity testing. So you assess the validity of an item, for example, the extent to which you can read the newspaper well or the iPad, and you check whether one varies as the other one varies. It looks like a complex matrix, but bold numbers show significant correlations, and the double star is the significance. 0.01. And you see that there is significant correlation among all items. At this point, the program identifies factors where there is saturation, and there is only one factor, which is near vision, that corresponds to these requirements. Other factors are not significant. Now, test, retest, repeatability. Repeatability is very high. This is the Italian value, much higher than the original English value. Then discrimination power of the test. Well, this is interesting. Can NAVC discriminate among various subjects with different types of presbyopia? We had monofocal IOLs as the control group. High NAVC score means that the near vision quality is worse. There's a significant difference between the IOL group and all the rest. And also there is a significant difference between the group of uncorrected monovision individuals and spectacles. Contact lenses, multifocal and monovision contact lenses don't give the same subjective results as spectacles, and yet these are successful CL wearers. They use contact lenses all the time, but their scores are not comparable to spectacles. They set a cutoff beyond 44 NAV score. There would be problems, so as to fail and require some help. You see that Some are above, but most are below 44. It seems that the psychometric characteristics of the Italian NAVC version overlap with the original English version. The questionnaire has one single dimension to assess near vision ability. So if you'd like to start using the NAVC, it will be available online. It's got no copyright. I'd like to make these acknowledgements. And this slide is one that I put to really congratulate IBZ. I've always been at these events. 10 years ago, I congratulated Giorgio and others. Look at his posture. It's Napoleon-like, but he had more hair then. Again, congratulations. 10 years have gone by. The topics are increasingly linked to our age, but Giorgio and I are almost the same age. Thank you very much.